Okay, so I wanted to cover this because he's one of my favorite people on the planet Earth. He's had some rocky spots, but I can't deny my love for Jesse the Body Ventura. You might know me as the governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura. Or you might know me from my show, Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, where I talked about thermite paint and the Twin Towers. That's where he lost me a little bit. Even though, I mean, full disclosure, I was into that stuff a little bit in my 20s, and you're susceptible to that kind of stuff, and then you start going, oh, people are stupid. Yeah, way too stupid to carry that out. You give them way too much credit. Like, the conspiracy theories that are real are the ones where you're just kind of like, huh, that's just stupid enough. Anyway, so what I wanted to cover is the fact that Jesse Ventura has not exactly been what I would call a media darling for a long time. He's probably been off the airwaves for, and I'm talking like CNN's, MSNBC's kind of things. They haven't interviewed him for going on a decade at least. But ever since Tim Walz came into the race, he has obviously a little bit of expertise in being a governor of Minnesota. I'm sorry if you don't like my Jesse Ventura impression. That's just tough because yeah, it's just gonna happen. Actually, here's an interesting fun fact about my man Jesse Ventura. He was an underwater demolitions expert for the Navy SEALs. Do you know what that means? Lay the lines before the Marines came in to do all their action. They're very important in the Vietnam War. Also, just because I'm doing an impression, that does not mean I'm making light of it at all. It actually is very cool what he did, and when he talks about it, he's just it's I don't know, he's just a personality. I mean, the guy was a wrestler. Like, again, Jesse the Body Ventura was a wrestler. I'm sure you saw that in the thumbnail. I decided to go with a classic picture of Jesse the Body Ventura and Mean Gene Okerlund because, again, just why not? I'm a wrestling fan, if you didn't know that. So yeah, he was on CNN, and it was a great interview, and I want to kind of unpack that together. So shall we?
Korean War era veteran, cared about his community, but 2 days after I turned 17, he took me down to join the Army National Guard. And for 24 years, I proudly wore that uniform.
Presumptive Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, touting his service, the National Guard, at a campaign rally tonight in Arizona. It comes as Republican VP candidate Senator J.D. Vance criticizes Walz's record, accusing him of abandoning his National Guard unit in 2005 to run for Congress before a deployment to Iraq. Well, joining me now, former independent governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura. He endorsed Walz in his recent run for governor. Governor Ventura, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm really eager to hear your take on this because you are a former Navy SEAL. You served in Vietnam, and I have to ask you what you think.
Do you know what I did in Vietnam when I was a Navy SEAL? I was an underwater demolition teams expert. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Of this attack from the Trump-Vance ticket on Governor Walz's military service?
Well, Laura, I'll tell you what I think. I think it's shameful. I think it's shameful that a veteran would attack another veteran. Governor Walz served honorably for 24 years in the National Guard.
Yeah, I mean, she already laid it out, but it is just ridiculous that J.D. Vance, of all people, too, like, oh, I went to Iraq, but he was literally there with a freaking clipboard, so I just don't understand how he's, accusing this man of stolen valor when, he's just like, well, I was in a war zone. you didn't go to a war zone. It's just
20
like,
years, you are eligible to retire at any time you deem necessary. They talk about him missing his deployment. Well, maybe Mr. Vance should ask the real question. What is the National Guard doing deploying to a foreign country in a foreign war? Well, let's go into history and figure out how that happened. That happened because George W. Bush and Dick Cheney went into the Iraq War based on lies, no weapons of mass destruction, no ties to Al-Qaeda, nothing with 9/11,
no
and they ran out of
copyright.
bodies. They needed more bodies.
If I sing, no copyright.
They couldn't implement a draft. That would be political suicide. So what George Bush did was sign an executive order sending the National Guard into foreign deployment. The National Guard is not for foreign deployment. Their name says what they do. They guard our nation from within. So this hogwash about Governor Walz missing a deployment, not only that, he's 24 years, he's an E9. I deployed twice.
Jeez.
We never even had an E9 with
I was
us
about to
when
say,
we deployed.
yeah, that's insane.
E9s are not going to walk the point. They're not going to be involved in any combat whatsoever.
No.
They're figureheads being the most senior enlisted within their company, and that's what it's all about. So I think that Vance is doing a disservice to himself and a disservice to the United States Marine Corps. I know a lot of great Marines, and Marines show respect, and Vance is not showing.
I knew a bunch of great Marines that were lost in the jungle to this weird alien thing. I happen to be one of them, but I stand before you because I'm Jesse Ventura. I don't know why I went full wrestler with that one. Sorry. I actually kind of lost the impression there. Did you know that I went against the Predator? I used a really naughty word. If you know, you know.
Respect. And let's
slack-jaw.
Continue. Who does he have respect for? Donald Trump, the biggest draft dodger from the Vietnam War, the rich white boy
Bone Spurs.
who bought his way out of it. I come from South Minneapolis.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've been told that bone spurs are very serious, very serious. You don't want me running out on the battlefield with the bone spurs. You'll have to pick me up, and we all look at me.
My friends and I didn't get out of it. We either got drafted or we enlisted. I know 6 or 7 or 8 of my friends. Donald Trump was your typical rich white boy.
I'm sure there are a few
who
hippies you
didn't
knew.
have to serve in Vietnam because he could buy his way out of it.
Conscientious objectors, I believe they were
Vance is
called.
standing with this guy who leads from the rear.
Then why do you think, given all that you described, the politics, the history, and of course the person who's on the top of the ticket who has been criticized for the bone spurs reason for not going to
Jesse,
serve.
fix your glasses.
Frankly,
You're bothering
I
me.
have not served. I am a
Come on,
civilian
man.
and have the ultimate reverence for those who have, and thank you for your service. So why
Sorry,
do you
I'm
think
s-
this
I feel
is
like
the
I'm so
line of attack to
disrespectful.
choose politically? Obviously, it would offend and alienate voters on one level, and also
Just trying to get a
people who
laugh.
have served the armed forces on the other.
I don't know. You'd have to ask Mr. Vance that. I don't understand his motive whatsoever.
Does he
how
have a
he could
bakery?
turn against a fellow veteran.
Sorry.
You know, there's kind of an unwritten
Here, let
rule
me,
amongst us veterans.
Oh, come
You don't
on. I was gonna
criticize
show you
another
guys
veteran.
this.
Not every veteran's a knuckle dragger. And I'm not going to define knuckle dragger because if you've been in the service, you'll know what a knuckle dragger is.
I'm sorry about that. I feel like I need to go back a few seconds. There we go.
Know what a knuckle dragger is. But, you know, as a frogman in the United States Navy, my job was to ensure the Marines could get to shore to do their job. We went in ahead of them, we went in before them to ensure the Marines could land. And his point of being a Marine like he is and then criticizing the governor after 24 years of service, it's despicable on his behalf. For doing that, and I hope all veterans feel like I do about it. You don't criticize another veteran and how they served, whether they're a cook or whatever they do. They all have a job to do, and if you're going to be successful, everybody has to do.
If it's politically convenient for you, that seems not to be the case. I mean, J.D. Vance has made that very obvious.
Their job and pitch in to be successful.
But then again, I mean, the only thing that J.D. Vance has ever crushed was a couch, so.
So well said. I think it's capturing the sentiment of so many people who are watching this, and there is the terms I can think of is kind of an ick factor of having people at each other in this way, knowing.
I'm sorry to look at his face. I'm sorry, what did you just say? I'm sorry, the what factor? You just gave me an ick factor. Oh man, no, for he has no idea what she's talking about. What did you?
The nuance and knowing the fact that everyone has served, and what's the number? Like less than 1% of people have protected this nation over time. I do wonder, given your strong feelings and the way in which he has been attacked in this way, and he is addressing it in various ways. It won't be the end of the story. You have endorsed traditionally third-party candidates, although you did endorse him for his run for governor. Do you intend to endorse the Harris?
He was a huge RFK guy. Him and RFK, I think, were going to run on the ticket together at one point.
Walz ticket now?
Well, I'll tell you this. I met with Bobby Kennedy last winter.
Okay.
We met for 3 hours. Apparently, I came in second. He chose his woman, Shanahan, as running mate.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was totally
Bobby's
right.
still a friend of mine, but I'll tell you where I stand right now. I'm going to be selfish. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to see the United States elect its first black president. I didn't think that could ever happen, and they even re-elected him. Well, now I'm going to be selfish again. I've only got a few elections to go. I'm 73 years old now, so the window's closing. I want to be alive to see the first woman president of the United States of America and the first woman commander-in-chief, and we've got her right now.
Man, he dropped that like a wrestling line. And we've got that right now. Hell, can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah.
Governor, thank you so much for sharing your views on this issue. I think a lot of people have been very interested to hear what you have said.
Sorry,
so you are officially endorsing the Harris Walz ticket. Excuse me.
This wasn't planned.
Yes, I want to see a woman president. It's time for a woman president. We men have screwed it up enough. And you know what? Maybe we'll finally get some legitimate thing on the abortion issue. You know how to solve abortion? Hold men responsible. They're the ones ultimately responsible for all abortions. If you hold men responsible, then you'll see a big change in the abortion rules.
What does that mean to hold them responsible?
Oh, come on.
They're responsible for every abortion.
Really? I mean, come on. Are you can play dumb, but are you want him to just come out and say it? We gotta hold men responsible. We gotta make sure that contraception's not legal for them if they're gonna make sure that the ladies aren't gonna be able to do the dirty tango, then they shouldn't be able to either. They shouldn't be able to wrap it up. Sorry, I almost got vulgar there.
Abortion that could take place. They are the aggressor.
Yeah.
Sex tells you that.
You mean in terms of
I love how he's just like, come on!
Can't be a baby without a man's involvement. That's what I'm telling you. So until you hold the men responsible for impregnating women, you're not going to get any type of
He's not
legitimate
wrong.
type
I
of
mean,
law
it sounds silly, but
you
he's not
gotta hold
wrong.
men responsible for the pregnancies of women because they are the ones responsible, not the woman, the man.
It'll be interesting to see how people evaluate that. On the one hand, thinking about autonomy and agency over one's body, and also the notion of assigning responsibility on the other.
Well,
I'll be curious to see how that factors out.
Laura, you know what else I stand for?
What, Governor?
I don't stand for a minimum wage. I stand for a maximum wage. If you can't live on $1 million a month, something's wrong with you.
Well, I'd like to sign up for the $1 million a month plan.
If you make
I mean,
$12
you can make light of it, but
million
what he's about,
a year,
like what he's
what
saying,
would you
I was
want
about to
for?
say, I'm like,
What would you possibly
this guy has
need?
been
The point I'm making is
saying
there
this stuff for
shouldn't be any
years, but
billionaires.
I'm glad
and I'll
they
tell
said,
you
again, this is
why.
why he's not on
Because
the news a
nobody
lot.
works hard enough to get $1 billion.
interrupting.
And my hardest job I ever did was going through Navy SEAL training, and I was making $4 a day. And you're going to tell me a billionaire worked harder than I did? Bull crap.
Is there anything more to say?
He used
Governor
to
Jesse Ventura,
add to
thank you
that,
so-
even the guy that holds the sign at the construction site's working harder than your average
Pleasure joining me
politician.
This evening, I've been eager to hear your opinion, and I'm glad I heard it tonight. Thank you.
Yes. See, all right. I was glad. I was happy that I got to see him on there. All right. Well, as I said, Jesse Ventura is one of my favorite people. Right there, you got to see why. I'm glad that he's calmed down with the conspiracy stuff, as of late. I haven't really heard from him until this. Weirdly enough, he actually just showed up in WWE as well, which is huge because him and Vince McMahon do not get along. But I gotta go let my dog out. So if you like this, you know what to do. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're not, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.